I know what you're thinking. This title has to be clickbait, right? Well, it's not. Let's get into it. If you were raised in church or you're familiar with the Bible at all, you'll know that there are lots of people in the Bible that are described as having leprosy, otherwise known as Hansen's disease. Leprosy or Hansen's disease is a chronic bacterial infection that primarily affects the skin, nerves, and mucous membranes. Symptoms can include skin lesions, nerve damage, muscle weakness, disfigurement, and glaucoma or blindness. In the Bible, people who are described as having this condition are often excluded from society, not being allowed in the temple for worship, and they're considered ritually impure. So who am I, some random guy on YouTube, to tell you that leprosy isn't actually in the Bible? I mean, there are 2 entire chapters on how to deal with it in Leviticus, and there are lots of people in the Gospels and other Old Testament stories that are dealing with or are healed from leprosy. The Greek word used in the Septuagint and the Gospels to refer to this condition is lepra, and the Hebrew word in the Masoretic text is sara'ath, which doesn't describe Hansen's disease at all. Leviticus 13 says, "The priest must then examine the infection of the skin on the body, and if the hair in the infection has turned white and the infection appears to be deeper than the skin of the body, then it is a diseased infection. So when the priest examines, he must pronounce the person unclean. If it is a white bright spot on the skin of his body, but it does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and the hair has not turned white, then the priest is to quarantine the person with the infection for 7 days." And Exodus 4:6 compares lepra to snow. "The Lord always said to him, 'Put your hand into your robe.' So he put his hand into his robe, and when he brought it out, there was his hand, leprous like snow." So white, flaky skin seems to be one of the key symptoms of lepra, which causes a serious problem for identifying it with leprosy. And this is going to be my main argument for why leprosy is not in the Bible. The way the Bible describes this condition does not line up at all with Hansen's disease or what we would call leprosy. Robert Cochran, a leprologist, says, "There are 2 details in the Levitical record which cannot apply to leprosy. Its whiteness and the affection of the scalp. In the first place, leprosy lesions are never white. In the second place, leprosy of the scalp very rarely occurs, and does not occur apart from advanced lepromatous leprosy." Not only does the biblical record not align lepra with leprosy, but ancient secular sources do as well. Celsus says, "The surface of the body presents a multiplicity of spots and of swellings, which at first red are gradually changed to be black in color." Pliny says, "The plague usually begins on the face, a kind of freckle on the tip of the nose, yet presently the skin dries up over all the body, covered with spots of various colors, and uneven, in places thick, and others thin, and others hard, as with rough itch scab. Finally, however, going black." We even have archaeological evidence that leprosy didn't even show up in Judea until the 1st century. Plutarch, writing around 100 AD, says, "Philo, the physician, claimed that the disease called elephantiasis, which is leprosy, had been known for only a short time, because none of the ancient physicians had written a treatise on it, though they discussed many others that were minute and minor, to most people obscure." Hopefully by now we've established that lepra and leprosy are not the same condition. So, what is lepra? Contemporary dermatologists say it actually doesn't correspond to any modern skin condition. This is why Jacob Milgrom, an Old Testament scholar, concludes that trying to identify which medical condition Leviticus depicts is wrong-headed. What Leviticus describes, he says, is ritual, not pathology. So the truth is, we don't totally know what this skin condition is. What we can know is that it's more like a fungal infection rather than Hansen's disease, since it is able to infect homes as well. Leviticus 14 says, "If, however, the spot breaks out again in the house after he has pulled out the stones and scraped the house, and after it has been replastered, the owner shall therefore tear down the house, its stones, its timbers, and all the plaster of the house, and he shall take them outside the city to an unclean place." So I've taken you this far, and you might be a little bit disappointed because leprosy isn't in the Bible, but we don't actually know what lepra is. However, I want to tell you why this still matters. Lepra is a condition that would have made the person or the household infected ritually impure or unclean. This is why people infected with lepra are exiled outside of the city and not allowed to enter the temple. If they were around others, they would spread their impurity to the community, and God gave strict regulations in the law to not let impurity into the sacred space of the temple grounds. A condition like leprosy or Hansen's disease, on the other hand, would not make someone ritually unclean. As we can see in Matthew 21, those who were blind and those who limped came to him in the temple area, and he healed them. Not every disease or ailment made someone unable to enter the temple area, but lepra, on the other hand, would. So when we read in Matthew chapter 8, a lepros came and knelt before him and said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said. "Be clean." Immediately, he was cleansed of his lepra. Any Jewish listener to this story would have been amazed. Jesus cleansed a man of his ritual impurity in an instant. Normally, for someone's ritual impurity to be cleansed, they would have to be quarantined outside the city, go through washing ceremonies, and potentially even perform sacrifices. But Jesus was able to cleanse him in an instant with just a touch. The relevance for us today is that Jesus, through his gospel, can cleanse the soul of its impurity. In the Old Covenant, the temple was in a specified location in Jerusalem. That's where Yahweh's presence was, and any dedicated Jew would have longed to be there. In the New Covenant, as Paul tells us, we are the temples of the Holy Spirit. When the gospel cleanses our hearts, we gain access to the very presence of God because he comes down and dwells in us. And that is the best news ever. Thank you so much for watching this video telling you why leprosy is not actually in the Bible. And even though we don't know what lepra actually is, it still matters. I told you it wasn't clickbait. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want more content like this. This has been The Epitome. I'm your host, Nathan Bozeman. We'll see you around.